Have you ever just retouched other papers and articles in the related work section, just mentioning them one by one in the alphabetic order, just mentioning the main ideas of the books? To tell the truth, it's not the best way how to present scientific literature in your research paper. Related work section, it's not just about retelling every book that you have read. You need to write it in that way that the reader will easily understand why you are using every particular paper. In this video, I will explain how actually to approach all scientific literature for your research and how to write related work section of your scientific paper. To begin with, what related work section actually is. And by the way, it can have different names like background, scientific background, methodological background. The names can vary, but important thing is that section you present all papers, scientific papers that were relevant for your research. And what is also important is that maybe it can be some papers that didn't give you any practical value, but still you need to acknowledge the papers that were done in your field so that you understand that there were other researchers that were doing the same topics, the same methods or data, for example. How to organize all scientific literature? Firstly, you need to analyze it in a proper way. For example, let's have this research question: how did attitude in terms of sentiment analysis changed towards the event X during the period between 2020 and 2023? And so this research question can be distinguished in 3 sub-areas. So first sub-area is attitude, sentiment analysis. What does it exactly mean? How do we measure it? How do we measure it, keeping in mind that it can be different types of sources? So you need to know answers to all these questions so that you are able to make a research. And what is more, you need to know scientific literature to base your answer on these papers. So we have defined the first sub-area. So the next sub-area is event X. So you need to have some general understanding of this event, of its importance, why you actually can analyze it, and maybe there were other researchers that were analyzing this event, maybe in another context, so you need to consult with their papers so that you can find maybe some ideas, hypotheses about this event and how, actually, what was the consequences of this event, why you're actually analyzing it. Maybe some other researchers were analyzing this event in terms of tweets or some internet articles. It also can be relevant so that you understand why actually this event is important. So the third sub-area is our sources, newspapers, where are we actually making our research. You need to know peculiarities of working with your sources, so that you need to have some general articles and books about this source. In our example, it's newspapers, how to analyze them, and especially maybe there were other papers that were analyzing newspapers, but in terms of some other social events. So in this way, we have 3 sub-areas. Sentiment analysis, in general, it's our method, how we want to do our research. It's first sub-area. The second sub-area is actually what we are analyzing, what is the topic we are analyzing. It's event X. And the third area is our sources. We need to understand our sources so that we can analyze them. And how actually to write down your related work part. So just group your papers according to the sub-areas, so that, for example, in the first area you're writing about sentiment analysis and papers that are explaining this term and methodologies that you need to have. The second part is event X, and the third one, newspapers and its peculiarities. Of course, it can be papers that belongs at the same time to 2 of them or even to 3. And in this way, you also need to mention them. And I would include them in the end of the paragraph. So what I mean, for example, you have a paper, sentiment analysis about the event X, but in terms of tweets. And so you are writing about sentiment analysis, how you need to do it, and in the end you are writing like there is a paper about sentiment analysis of the event X, blah 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 blah, and then event X, and you are starting the new paragraph. It's even better because you have a logical connection between two paragraphs. You finished with the topic sentiment analysis, and right now you are beginning with a new one, event X, and you have this logical connection, this article or paper that is both about sentiment analysis and event X. And so you're describing this article, and then okay, let's talk about event X. If you belong to some engineering mathematical field, you can have a research with the topic something like construction of air purifier for medical institutions, for example. So in this way we can also distinguish this topic in 3 sub-areas. Air purifier, what does it exactly mean, how to define it, what properties should it have. You need to have the literature to describe the peculiarities of air purifiers. So also for medical institutions, what does it exactly mean again, what properties does it have, like what are special requirements for air purifiers only for medical institutions, because it's not the same for general building or some office. It's another one. So you need to keep it in mind that you need to explain it in your research paper. That is why it's also important to have scientific literature that will help you, that you can consult with. And the third area is also can be just constructions. In this way you need to have some formulas, some calculations, to not to start only from your mind. You also have some background in this, and so you need to have scientific literature. Maybe other researchers already conducted some equipment for medical schools, I don't know. And you need to keep it in mind and read the such papers so that you know how others do relatively the same stuff, relatively the same task. So what I want to say, in the scientific paper, when you are making any statement, it should be either based on your own results or on other scientific papers. You can't just make some statements without proving them. And so when you are using other researchers, of course you need to reference them in a proper way. And that is why it is very important to have a full picture of possible topics that can be related to your research, so that when you are conducting the analysis and writing down your paper, you can base some ideas on these papers. So that is why it's important to have this scientific literature that are connected to several topics of your research, because your research always have different dimensions. It's general background, it's methods that you are using, it's your data, how to analyze it, what peculiarities does it have. So please, you need to keep all this stuff in your mind. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any other questions, please write down them in the comments below. So thank you for watching. Have a nice end of the day. See you. Bye.